Hi! You pronounced my name right. He gets like 2 brownie points. It's a, it's a joke. I'm a trained scientist. It's kind of the primary thing I like to do. It's just a lot of work, and so I ended up doing science for fandoms like My Little Pony and anime and Warhammer 40K, just as examples, and then go to conventions and also present new work there that hasn't been turned into a video yet, so the conventions get something special. That's mostly what I do. As far as about me, um, I'm not super young anymore, and I make a living on YouTube by sheer grit and determination. So I have a associate's in biology, a bachelor's in human sexuality, and a master's in human communication. I effectively have all of the required degrees to either be a professor or to be your marriage counselor if I so chose. Uh, First off, it gives me the basic scientific training that you would expect to see for someone who wants to write a research paper. When someone asks a question like, what are the physics of Pinkie Pie's party cannon? I can sit down and do the mathematics and figure out the formulas I need and break down video and everything that I need to do in order to determine the physics behind a party cannon. Other A little bit, yeah, sure. I mean, it's the closest. It's the closest thing that can be related to it. Yes. Uh, what I do now for ponies, I've done it for 40K for over 2 years at this point, and I've done it for anime for a year and a half. So I go to Comic Cons and anime conventions and My Little Pony conventions, and then present the scientific work there. I actually, for the Brony fandom, for instance, I will be a community guest at every My Little Pony convention except BronyCon this year. Uh, because I'm going to show up and present the scientific work I've done as panels that people can interact with, poke holes in. The idea for me is that I show up and present these panels and get more people interested in the work I do, but also they can poke holes into the theories I have, and into the science I've done, in order to, by the time I publish the video, all of the hole poking and potentially messed up mathematics or things that I didn't actually think about that I should have thought about has already been accounted for, because I had a live audience tear me apart. Which one? Hi, I'm the executive director of theme of BabsCon. I'm also the actress who plays Queen Quake, the con mascot at the convention. Hold on. We are glad that you recognized our name. Thank you. But yeah, so I play her, and at BabsCon we do a live play, a stage show. That also is continued throughout the entirety of the convention, where you can walk up to these characters that our actors are playing and interact with them directly. Your interactions change what happens on stage. They change how the story progresses, and they change the characters. An example, one of the characters we had for the last 2 years, Richter Scales, was not originally a character on our list, but a person came up and had literally made up this character, asked us where Queen Quake's pet dragon Richter Scales was, and the next week, while we are all sitting here and for the last week, we were all going, "Who's Richter Scales?" We made it. We made a Richter Scales and got an actor for this person. Just as an example of something that the fandom did at the con that changed our story. Come up with a project and just go do it. Don't hesitate. Don't think about it. Just go. That's the biggest advice I can give anybody. If you think you want to do something, go figure out the logistics. I didn't think I would ever do merchandise or vending at cons, and right now I've been spending the last 5-6 months. Wow, it's been that long. Figuring out the logistics of doing vending at conventions and getting the stuff together to do it. And it's been fun and rewarding, but the biggest thing that I found when doing that was, and still is, don't do stuff that everybody else does. Do something that everybody's going to walk up and go, "Oh, that's cool and unique and different," and you end up having a better time. But that's just an example. Another example would be, I started a YouTube channel on a whim because someone said I couldn't do it. In terms of, I can't. I have signed NDAs for certain things. I can assure you that there is a new villain this year, and and Queen Quake will only be at the con for Friday. This is because I've taken the head of the department role, and therefore it makes no sense, and it's a big faux pas in terms of acting, to direct a movie you are also participating in. So instead, there will be a new villain for this year. Whether she comes back next year or not will be determined by the audience and how they receive her. We have announced Starlight Glimmer's voice actor. My brain is not working right now. We announced that at the end of our con this year. We announced our first guest as a part of our, "Hi, we're having a convention." The person who I was doing voice acting for, the series they were doing, hasn't continued for quite a while. We don't expect them to pick it back up and continue, even though we recorded lines for the next one. But I have played 2 different Sisters of Battle, and I am also the voice actor for Kato Sicarius for the Emperor's Text-to-Speech device on YouTube. I've done a couple of commercials, and that's about it as far as voice acting is concerned. As far as actual acting is concerned, I've been on the stage for a while. I've done it since I was a sophomore in college, so that was 7 years ago. I did it for 3 years as a part of the University of Delaware acting troupe, which means that I did Shakespeare and a couple plays that were designed specifically for us. We did the Book of Mormon one year. The point being that we've done that, I've done that, and I know what it's like to be on stage constantly. One of the cool things about being openly transgender was that the director had me playing male and female roles. So depending on what was needed, I would just adjust my voice and either wear a binder for the male roles or wear a push-up bra for the female roles, because everyone's wearing a dancer's gap anyway, so no one can tell, anything below the waist because it all looks the same. Oh, I was super proud of stuff like that. The people the two people I dated during college, I would drag them to the place. Renee, actually, I didn't have to drag to the place. She would get on the Amtrak train, drive down for the Friday night premiere, and come out to the play, and then jump back on the Amtrak train and go back home, back to Boston where she lived, uh, at the end of the weekend, and would come in and see every single uh, what is it called, matinee of the play we were doing for the next 2 weeks over the course of that weekend. She would come in on every single one. So, like, a little known fact is that you don't get to play Hamlet 2 days in a row. So what happens is in every single theater book, there's two books, one for crew one and one for crew two, because the actors playing Hamlet, it's not the same actor night after night because it's too draining. There's too much between the sword fighting, the falling, and the actual portraying the character. It's better if it's a different actor between matinees and showings of the play. That's just one example of something I learned the hard way. The hard way. Okay. I don't. First off, I don't actually have the. I am not the guest of honor handler, and I'm not the community guest handler, so I don't have that information because that's kept within that department until they release it. Second, even if I knew everyone who was going, I couldn't tell you yet because they haven't been announced. I know there are a select list of community guests and voice actors that everyone has requested, but I couldn't tell you if they've been offered contracts or not, or if they're in negotiations or what. I know for a fact that the person I requested likely will not show up simply because they don't do conventions due to an incident that happened to them, an unfortunate incident. But I would really like just to meet her and shake her hand. I don't even want an autograph. I just want to meet her and shake her hand. Yes. I have. Mm-hmm. So I will give you an example of something I can say that's going to be at BabsCon. I have a lab coat that I wear to conventions as kind of a trademark to so that people can easily locate me. Said lab coat over since Nightmare Nights has been signed and autographed by every single community guest and guest of honor at every single convention that I've been to. So Nightmare Nights, Ciderfest, Winnie City, BabsCon, uh, High Roller Pony Con so far. Trot. It's going to be done at TrotCon, BronyCon, at Crystal Mountain Pony Con, at Ciderfest. It was also done at St. Louis Crystal Fair. So, but all of the guests have signed it, both community guests and guests of honor. I'm going to auction that lab coat off at BabsCon for charity. I have a signed contract from BabsCon right now that Friday at opening ceremonies, I have to walk on stage with that lab coat and hand it over. And then they will read the ledger of everyone that has signed said coat. And then I will, of course, put on a new lab coat when I turn it over and have Dusty Cat immediately be the first person who signs the new lab coat. That's going to be mine to keep. But that has already been put into writing that I have to do that at BabsCon as a part of my community guest contract is turn over the lab coat on stage and then have that one auctioned off for charity. In addition to that, the autographs on the lab coat, every single vendor from every con has contributed via me flat out paying for it, a button, a ribbon, or some other object that's hanging off of that lab coat. So effectively, right now, to make the lab coat as is, according to the ledger, is almost $7,000, not including airfare and hotel or your food. It's literally if you just bought a badge, went to the convention, bought the merch, and paid for the autographs, is what we're counting for. If you wanted to go get it done, it would cost you $7,000. You must have a con badge to get into a convention. Yes, they will not let you in. Well, no, community guests are community guests, generally, it's just up to the individual community guest how they want to act, and most of the time, the vast majority of community guests I've ever met are like, yes, come up, talk to me. But the guests of honor are usually gated off by VIPR and treated like actual full-on VIPs. You can meet them by going to the autograph room. You don't necessarily have to get an autograph. You can just walk up and meet them and talk to them. They're happy to talk to you. Hell, I held a 15, 20-minute conversation with John Delancey backstage at BabsCon, so they're happy to talk to you. I still find it hilarious. My first words to him at BabsCon were, he walked in and said, "Oh, hello, what's your name?" And I'm wearing the Queen Quake dress with a microphone on, and I go, "I would love to talk to you right now, but I don't know if my microphone is on or not." And he went, "Oh." I don't know. I hope so. Okay. I know. Um, I'm aware. I My Little Pony fandom the biggest project I do right now for ponies. On Wednesday night, the developers of the official Fallout Equestria game, the tabletop game, come into my YouTube channel, and one of the devs has been running a live stream of that game since before it came out. Now it's officially out, and we've just been adapting the rules and continuing to run with the same characters. Now, we're not done. I have taken said live stream and turned it into a fan fiction. Apparently, I'm not a terrible writer, and I'm no longer allowed to say that because initially it didn't get very much traction, and now every time I update a chapter, it gets featured on FanFiction. Officially, I've been told by Seth Eastro of Equestria Daily that I have to do some major editing work to, quote, tone down the gore and clear up your comma splices and he will put it on Equestria Daily, but that's going to be a major overhaul of the entire story that's now over 200,000 words. I also write my YouTube fans on usually tonight, but I'm way too exhausted, so we're going to do it tomorrow night. But always on Saturday night, we run a writing live while drunk stream, which basically my YouTube fans decide how drunk I'm going to get based on the tips they give, and then I consume alcohol and continue to try to write a story while consuming alcohol, then go back and re-edit the stories while completely sober, and then publish them. But right now, there are. I'm waiting on my editor, Prop Master, who's a wonderful, wonderful editor and a very good writer, but he's kind of a little slow in comparison to what I can throw out. I'm waiting on him to go back and do some editing work for Chapter 21 Fallout Equestria, 3 unpublished stories, and we have to finish the edits for Equestria Daily for the submission of Bone Daddy, because they want to put it up on EQD, but there's a bunch of grammar work that has to be done, and I have to rewrite the entirety of the last chapter to basically break it into 2 or 3 separate chapters and rewrite the whole thing. But those are the fan fictions I write. Right now, let's see, what have I got on the cute story prompt list? 1, 2, that one is officially written. I can take it off the list. 13? I've got 13 additional stories that have been suggested to me that are actually on the list for me to go write. 2 of which are in progress, but I'll give you an example. My subscribers want me to write a pony parody of MASH. They want me to write Twilight in a spacesuit with a ship getting lost in Luna's main as a Lost in Space parody. Well, those are just 2 random examples. So, I was sitting at Nightmare Nights and I was invited to play this Fallout Equestria game. I really like Fallout. Fallout's fun. Bethesda, please don't fuck up Fallout. Thank you for barely fucking Fallout 4. Please don't fuck up anything after 76 because I don't expect it to be good. That's a whole other conversation that's on the same queue as politics and religion right now. So I was sitting down, invited to play, and I said, well, I'll make my own character. So I made my own character. And it was fun. So when I went home, and I was talking to the devs about coming on my channel and running a live stream game as advertising for their game they were going to release. The devs did not expect what happened. I did not actually expect what happened. I expected maybe 10 applications. When we sat down to do character generation, or i.e. character submission, where people would plead their case for them to be included as characters, we had 31 people in the chat, in the audio of Discord, giving a submission that day. 32 counting myself, because I have to go through the character submission process just like everyone else, and I give the GMs the full right to reject my character, and I will still stream the game and just not be in it, and just give off-color commentary that they can't hear because I'm a horrible person. Never actually had to do that, but I took the character from Nightmare Nights, who I decided was an explosives expert with Random and Wild Wasteland, and said, okay, I want to play a functional version of the Soul Survivor. Like how someone would actually react if they went into cryostasis at the time the bombs were dropped, woke up, in our case 183 years later, which is exactly one generation before Little Pip and Blackjack show up, and had to deal with the world. They remember how everything was before the bombs came. They went through all these other events before that, but now they have to deal with the fact that the world isn't the same. Still playing an explosives expert because explosives are fun. And that's how I came up with my character, and it has evolved from there. The actual look of my character was designed by my subscribers, not me. We sat in on a writing live stream night, and I said, okay, guys, design this character. How does she look? That's the only physical quantifier I have at the moment for her is that it's a female. So figure it out from there. And I got up, walked over and made tea and just waited. Once I had all the suggestions, I put it all into straw polls for all the different colors and combinations and everything, and was voted that's how she looked. The armor on her I added, and I had to pick a stable. So I went through the stable list and found an official stable that nobody had done anything with, stable 43. Well, now Sunrise is the stable mare from stable 43. And then I wrote the history of her parents, and I wrote about the reason she looked the way she did, and did everything else that I was supposed to do to basically when I make a character for any tabletop game, it's normal for me to start with, if I'm going to be playing this character long term, who are these characters' parents, and do they have siblings? That's where I start. I don't start with what I'm doing with the character itself. I go make the parents, and I make the siblings, and then I make the character using them. So I end up making, in Sunrise's case, I only made 2 other characters, which were her parents, and went from there. I definitely have fans that are just here for this. There is literally a role on my server that's just called "I came here for pony fan fiction." And if you have that role, it literally means you're not here to see me play video games. You don't care about the live stream videos. You are literally just here because I write fan fiction you enjoy, or you're literally just here. And there's another role for Fallout Equestria. That's literally, you're just here because you want to see Fallout Equestria stuff. No other reason. You didn't ask for one. There's this little section called Discord Meta where you go in and go, hey, I want these. And we go, okay, here you go. And if you're asking for the not safe for work stuff, we ask, can anybody vouch that you're over 18? You don't have to show your ID. You just have to have somebody else in the server go, yes, he's 18. God, we wouldn't ask for ID. That would be silly. That I've acted or voice acted for. Let me think. I don't necessarily have a favorite character. I do have favorite moments for all of them. So for Wandering Sunrise, it's hold on. Hi, I'm Wandering Sunrise. What's your name? Every time I get to say that line and listen to the GM cringe is totally worth it. For Queen Quake, it was sitting on stage, and the sword that shattered that was not supposed to shatter, that I ended up having to get 5 stitches put into my hand and finish acting the weekend with a bandage and 5 stitches in my hand. That moment, still totally worth it. And also the moment during that process where she looked up and said, where I had to look up and on stage tell Golden Gates to kill me. Just the hush that came over the audience when a hand that clearly has blood on it. We'd been keeping it hidden from the audience as best we could, but because of the way I was on on my hips and butt on the stage, the only way I could support myself was with the hand that wasn't injured. So when I had to reach up and grab Golden Gates' sword, my arm came almost all the way out of the sleeve, and everyone who was in the first couple rows could clearly see the injuries on my hand. The audible gasp from the audience was just absolutely priceless. Mm-hmm. Oh, you should have. So something you have to learn about acting roles, your acting. Have fun with it. Just ignore the ramifications that are going to be associated with what you're about to do, and just have fun with it. In all seriousness, I have to tell this to a surprising number of. I had to tell this to a surprising number of new actors that they just needed to relax and okay. Okay. So when someone says, um, so just there's a difference between what you did and what I would call having fun and going over the top. And the reason it wasn't particularly funny is because you sounded uncomfortable doing that. So yeah, you sounded whether it was just the voice itself or you were just not okay with doing it. The point is that when you do certain roles that are out of your archetype, one of the biggest things you can do is go nuts. So what do I mean by that? Uh, Example. So it was welcome the newest member of the what? Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the newest member of the Lagoon. Accent it, go over the top, go so far into it that they actually believe you were the one who wanted to say that in the first place. But yeah, you just go to stupid with those type of roles, and if you don't get it, you don't get it. Oh well. If you do get it, awesome. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That happens. You just kind of roll with it until there's a decent segue to get back on the railroad tracks, and hope that the train hasn't crashed by the time you do. Not off the top of my head. I've watched up to episode 12. I've been thoroughly spoiled for what the next episode is, to the point of which I'm waiting for the spoilers to die down enough that I don't really see them every couple hours in order for me to stop and actually go watch it so that I can actually enjoy it. But I've been I firmly agree. Twilight's a better villain than Chrysalis. Okay. I don't know where that came from, but that was adorable. I don't have a lot immediately off the top of my head to say. Um, well, for K-Cat, I've met her in person. She's pretty fun, interesting individual that I just enjoyed hanging out with for a little bit. For Somber, I was fine with. Here was the thing. I got to reading Project Horizons. The first 6 chapters, I'm like, it's Little Pip with alcohol. Then it became its own character. And then at a certain point, I kind of felt like the story was done and the character should be dead. And the character wasn't dead. And the story wasn't done. And I'm like, I don't know where you're going with this. And then they just apparently, for shock value, killed all the interesting characters. That's entirely fair. I mean, he did kind of open the floodgates where I am still, going back and forth with Equestria daily on on a weekly basis. Actually, the email chain is at least once a week between myself and Seth Eastro on what I can and cannot get away with, and for submission to EQD and being published on EQD, because he wants my story on there because he actually read it and liked it, but he doesn't want another, Project Horizons where it's good to start with, and then, oh dear God, you went to places that we don't really want you to go. So he opened the floodgates to where I can get in, but I have to not, no offense, I probably shouldn't do, for any reason, I'm just going to come out and say it. I probably shouldn't do a gang rape snuff scene. I probably shouldn't do a drunken orgy that results in a miscarriage, and I probably shouldn't do a murder all of the characters who are important and interesting in horrific ways point. Please, Moon, don't make me write any of that. I'm just telling you now. Blackjack's kid dies. Thought you read the whole story. Sorry. Hi, everyone in the audience. I will spoil everything if you didn't get that hint by now. People come up and spoil me all the time. Do you want me to finish the story for you? Yeah, so P21 dies, Gloria dies. Everybody you know and love except for Scotch Tape, Rampage, and Blackjack die. Rampage is not dead. No. That's nice. If she died, it was somewhere. It was in another story because it wasn't in this one. Um, the epilogue ends with Little Pip, Rampage, and Blackjack, if I remember correctly, all sitting up on the moon of Equus, staring at Equus, trying to figure out how the hell they're going to get home. But anyway, the fact of the matter is that all the interesting characters, because there was a certain point where Blackjack was just, you have a really hard head and we keep having to replace parts of your body with cybernetics, can kind of just want you to fall over already and not get up. Because I would have been perfectly content if Blackjack died and we just continued the story with the other characters. That would have been fine. Nope. So, but I also understand that part of the, I guess, cliche you expect with a Fallout Equestria story is that the main character is going to go through some shit that should probably kill them. There needs to be a plausible explanation why they aren't dead. You need to make sure you have a different plausible explanation every time they aren't dead, not the same one over and over again. So that's the biggest issue I had with Horizons is there's 8 or 9 times Blackjack should be dead and all that, and to rectify that they kept adding more cybernetics and I'm like, no. There's a point where the body can't take it, or where you've been brain dead for too long, your brain's just not going to turn back on. But so for Sunrise, the way that she's not dead yet, for instance, when we've been playing the tabletop game, is my character wears a crap ton of armor. I mean, a metric ton, a literal ton of armor. But let me look it up right now. I can bring up the. Oh, it's a landmine. She's small frame, and it did blow off. It did completely shred her duster, where she had to spend the rest of the night repairing the armored bomb duster they'd made for her. Uh, let me. You're talking about the minefield picture, right? I have all these pictures on. They're either embedded in the story itself, where you can go look at them and they just show up as you're reading, or I have them, and I also have prints of them that people can come. Shameless advertising. I have prints and plushies and I'm the person who has those wild Pegasus bottles you guys have been seeing on Twitter. Yeah, I'm that person. So the other characters in all of the pictures that we've done are actually played by a real person. So in this case, on the minefield photo you're talking about, I'll send you the photo. So if you want to put it in the interview, you can. The minefield photo on the right is Quick Stitch, played by one of my subscribers, Shadow Man. The person who threw the skull that set off the goddamn landmine is Boxpone, i.e. Corners, and the zebra is Nyota, who's running to try to catch her before she hits the ground. A part of this image you'll notice is that her right leg is turned at an odd angle towards the bottom. That's because the leg is actually broken. This is just the artist. That's an artist decision. It's there. There's well, no, it's an artist who's unfamiliar with the setting, and the image comes out looking better without the shading for the clouds. So we left it like that. To give an example, but yeah, there's been some things the artists have done that I prefer to give them artistic freedom as opposed to tell them, no, it has to be this way. Well, if they do it this way, the image itself looks better, even if it's not necessarily lore friendly. It's still more visually appealing and more visually interesting. That's nice, but the way I tend to do things is I don't want to curtail my artists. If the artists think the background should be more vibrant, I let them make the background more vibrant. To give you it, yeah, I don't feel like, for the most part, they've gotten everything right. Here's an example. Here's one that doesn't have the same artist in the minefield because it was near the landmine when it went off. Here in this picture, yeah, you step on landmines. Well, landmines also explode from underneath. So the GM ruled that the explosion hit the primary force of the explosion went into the leg, and the limb condition dropped to below 0. So that means it's broken. A lot of what's played. What do you mean? God. Minefield takes place just before in-game Christmas. Based on the date, it's been when the mine goes off. It is, I want to say, two. It's 2.5 weeks since they woke up in the pool of water. In game, it's 2.5 weeks. She doesn't realize how bad it is. She still keeps. One of the characteristics of playing this character is when we meet some pony on the road or we meet some pony in a town, she always walks right up and introduces herself. This has gotten her shot, blown up, stabbed, screamed at, threatened, but on the flip side, it's gotten friends. It's gotten them out of a radiation storm, and they have a couple towns that they can go back to and actually stay at relatively safely now. But that's also at the cost of, she walked up and just said hello to an Enclave soldier who just shot her. She has above average endurance, but the point is I put a lot of body armor on the character. Example, right now she's wearing a reinforced stable jumpsuit with a flak vest over it, armored leggings, a Ministry of Peace environmental cloak, a full-on combat helmet Mark II, and all of that is integrated together to custom fit as a suit of actual armor. In video game terms, she has the equivalent damage threshold from Fallout New Vegas of wearing T60 power armor. I have PTSD. I can say that I have been through some pretty traumatic experiences. Go ahead. A little bit. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But yeah, but no, we go out of our way to basically, because I'm writing this from, this is being played on a tabletop game and then turned into a story. First off, there's a lot of rewrites between this, what happens at the tabletop game and what happens in the story, because there's just certain things that happen at a tabletop game that don't really make sense in a written story. Um, Example, the very first chapter of the story has them getting up and immediately accusing each other and being suspicious of each other and nearly being at each other's throats from the get-go when the party first meets each other. The actual tabletop game, we all got up and didn't have paranoia of each other and started working together almost immediately. I can't tell you the whole backstory because I still haven't revealed all of it. What's happening is, so there's a couple of core concepts. One, it is a character from before the bombs fell, which means that she remembers Equestria when it wasn't. She's not old enough to remember when it wasn't at war because they were at war for almost 17 years. But she remembers Equestria when it was not completely and utterly war torn all the time. She remembers what all the as technology progressed, kind of like people who are my age and younger might remember the progression of Nintendo to Sega to Super Nintendo to N64, that kind of thing. So she remembers that when there was nothing, and then there was this really cool thing, and then it kept getting more and more and more advanced. She remembers those things. But at the same time, she's now been put into this world. So the memory orbs we decided the way we would do memory orbs with an Earth pony is because you're put in stasis, and the way that stasis pods are described in both the Corfic and Project Horizons is the mind is still wandering, and therefore the mind needs to be occupied. So for long-term stasis, you are given memory orbs to keep your mind occupied. Well, if you're given too many memory orbs, you start to have issues. In her case, there are times when events happen and she stands there and stares off into space as she gets lost in a memory that's come up in the back of her head, and it replays for her just like a memory orb. She has no control over it. She doesn't know when it's going to happen. It just happens. She has nightmares that are the memory orbs playing. Whether they be good memory orbs or bad memory orbs, entirely up to audience interpretation and what actually happens in them, and she has no control over those. And the GM and I work very hard to go back and forth with this. Another element is because we came up with because I took a bunch of traits. I took random, wild wasteland, Pinky Sense all together. Well, Pinkie Pie has random, wild wasteland, and Pinky Sense, and as far as the game system goes, she's the only pony that has all three of those. So the GM decided that a spirit of basically Pinkie Pie hangs around her and tortures her in her head. So I'm just sitting there playing the game, for instance. This was last night. Let's see here. And Moon sends me a message. Pink fluffs up in your visor. Call him a raider. He really is. She's holding up a sign that says Alguacil equals raider. And she's chanting, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, while ponking intensely. It's the dealer, except for it's not the cursed item that's causing it. It's literally she has to share her body with someone else. The only thing that Pinkie Pie actually has full control over at all times is Sunrise's tail, because I took a tail trick as a perk, and we needed an explanation, a semi-logical explanation for why that worked. Why can her tail pick up the shotgun and shoot it? Pinkie Pie's doing it. Which has also resulted in things like, so there's a later point in the story where Pinkie Pie and Sunrise are having an argument, and Pinkie Pie throws a grenade, and Sunrise does her best to like stop the grenade from going very far, and it lands literally 5 feet from her and her friends. So I'll let you figure out what she does about it at that point. But life-threatening situation because you're having an argument with someone you have to share a body with. What's that supposed to mean? Oh, no, 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 no. No. This is Blackjack does not have to share a body with does not have anyone who has the ability to take direct control of parts of her body. And Rampage, and the way Rampage has to share a body with other people is she has to share a soul cube. So there's no guarantee which pony wakes up when she dies and regenerates. Okay. I'm just pointing out that. Anyway, not most of the stuff that ends up happening is not stuff that I come up with. It's stuff that my character has to process, react to, and figure out what we're going to do. There's a chapter coming up later where, so pre-war pony knows that the bombs ended her world, and she's now in this hell, in what she considers a hellscape with little dots of sanctuary here and there. Has to make a decision. That decision is, does she set off a mega spell? We saw Little Pip do it, and Little Pip did it without hesitation because Little Pip legitimately thought she was ending something evil. But understand, Little Pip didn't have her whole life ripped away from her by this very thing that she's going to have to use. So the idea from that entire thing, from writing that versus what we actually did at the table, writing that was, how would I write someone sitting in a Minuteman missile silo who just received the order, press the button? What's going through their head? How do they feel about this? I try to make all of my characters that I've written for every story as real as possible. It's not just the character does an action, reacts to that action. It's the character has, it is kind of like you or me when we're sitting down doing this interview right now. We're processing what we're saying. We're figuring out, in your case, what question to ask next and where to poke and prod or what to say back. But at the same time, we don't actually know the consequences of our actions till we take them. So we have to gauge the consequences. Another example of gauging those consequences, very early on, I made it very clear that my character was not primarily built as a combat character. How did I do this? Well, at the table, I shot one of the other players 3 times. In spite of having sats, in spite of having a shotgun that should be very easy to aim at this range. Nope. Fudged the roll, shot Nyota. Shot him 2 more times. Apologized every time. Felt absolutely guilty over it. And described how you would feel if you shot someone you thought was supposed to be your friend by accident. Legitimately shot someone by accident. There are times when you're reading the story version where you go, somebody rolled a nat 100 and absolutely screwed the pooch, or somebody rolled a nat 1, and you know they'd rolled a nat 1 because of what just happened. So there's a little bit of if you sit down and analyze the story and pick it out, you can see where certain actions happened at the table with the dice, and we just had to roll with rolling a nat 1 or rolling a nat 20. You can definitely go, huh, someone just rolled a crit. And then the other thing I've done that I notice isn't done with a lot of stories is every single chapter has a piece of artwork now. Whether it be artwork that I had drawn for my channel that is officially done by the artists who are on my payroll, or artwork that somebody submitted and was just like, hey, this is cool, I'm sending you this. And so there's all these random pieces of fan content, effectively, just sitting there at the bottom of the stories. There's one, let me check, is it chapter, I think it's chapter 18? Or is it chapter 20? I'll look at the 3 of them, but I think that there's one. Yeah, somebody showed up to BabsCon with a Boxpone cosplay. Not the player of the character. Just somebody showed up walking around as Boxpone with 2. Basically, they'd taken a cardboard box, 2 facsimiles for machine guns, and showed up to BabsCon cosplayed as Boxpone. I'm like, okay, I've apparently done something totally worth it. No clue. I have no idea. I know right now, the story version is on chapter 20, end of Act 2. Okay, that's fine. I have notes for I have completely written chapters 21, 22, 23, and 24. I have notes for 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35. We know for a fact we're nowhere near the end. We know for a fact that at Cider Fest this year, in Milwaukee, Charlie has approved our proposal for a live event. And that is that all of the actors in cosplay will be on stage as their characters playing the game we have been playing. So whoever is alive and in game on October 3rd is when we're going to lock it all in and get everybody's plane ticket and get everything arranged. So whoever is alive in game on October 3rd, at the end of that game, everybody, all of us are going to Cider Fest. We're all going to show up. We're all going to show up cosplayed as our characters, and we're going to sit down and play these larger-than-life characters in person at a table with dice and stand up and act out and everything. And it's also going to be live streamed over the staff, what is it called? The staff Wi-Fi at Cider Fest, not the general hotel Wi-Fi, the actual staff Wi-Fi that will have the bandwidth to handle it. We will be streaming it live with a microphone lowered down over the table so everyone can hear us, both on stream and in the audience. But we will be doing it live from Cider Fest for 3 hours straight. And if we need to go longer than 3 hours, we will be moving all the equipment and everything to the general tabletop room and continue from there if we need to go longer than 3 hours. Like that is an approved event at Cider Fest, is to run the official developer Fallout Equestria game with Moonhoof as our GM, and the characters who are currently alive. Which, by the way, I want to make this clear to everyone. I have bragging rights as the only Brony analyst who puts my OC's life in someone else's hands every week. Because legitimately, my character can die just like everyone else's. The whole audience is rooting for that not to happen, but we can screw up and she dies. We have made our peace with this. I would be incredibly upset, but that would basically be the point where that would be the end of her story, and I would have to start a new story. Which one is that? I haven't watched that now. But yeah, the chapter that just came out, 10 Hours, is called 10 Hours because Sunrise undergoes 10 hours of life-saving surgery, and then I reveal a bunch of plot points, and we finally this is why I'm talking about Pinkie Pie as Pinkie Pie instead of referring to her as Pink, because we finally reveal that, yes, in fact, we're going to confirm it, this is the spirit of Pinkie Pie that is stuck with her. And she's stuck with Pinkie Pie, and there's nothing the two of them can do about it right now. But she dove on a grenade, and her armor stopped most of it, but then she still had to finish the fight. And having a crippled torso and a crippled leg, and just using Med-X using Med-X, the painkiller, to ignore the cripples, does not negate the fact that they're still crippled. So every time that she fired her weapon, she was doing more limb damage to herself, driving her ribs into her lungs, for instance. And literally, I think I ended up in game. The GM made me pump through 7 shots of Med-X. Healing potions don't heal limb damage instantaneously. You have to, if you have actual broken limbs, you have to, have those set and fixed. That's why surgeons are still a thing in the fiction in Fallout Equestria and Horizons and Pink Eyes and Murky Number 7. They still have to go into surgery and have them realign bones and stuff. Just sucking healing potion does not stop that. By the end of the combat, I failed the endurance check to remain conscious. And it was my second time failing the endurance check. The character had taken too much painkiller and just passed out. Passed out because someone was trying to take her armor off. Because what we didn't realize is that between the grenade and shotgun, it had fused pieces of the metal plating into her skin. I didn't know it was that bad. I knew it was bad. Go read the story. You'll have to read through chapter 20 just to find out if she survives 10 hours or not. You've read most of Horizons. Come on. I'm only 1/3 of the length of the original story at this point. Probably a couple years. Horizons has been out for 7 years. Okay, is it a different Project Horizons? Because the one on FimFiction was originally published on September 1st, 2015. Okay. If you don't have any more questions, we've been doing this for a while. I'm not that popular. I only have 6,000 subscribers, and I mean, because I show up and present in things that people are interested in with interesting work, and it is work. Each of my panels I present at a convention, for instance. The shortest one I put 38 hours of my time into. The panel I had to put the least time into is 38 hours. Most of my panels have in excess of 70 hours of work. That's 70 hours I was sitting down looking at videos, 70 hours that I was sitting down doing math, and 70 hours I was sitting down writing the actual paper. Because every panel I have, the first thing I do is write an actual scientific paper and then turn it into a panel. But the physics video for part 2, for instance, we just got to the point to record voice acting lines today. I recorded some lines today. We're recording the rest of the lines Sunday night. That video has been in production since High Roller PonyCon at the start of this month. So normally on Thursday, but I went to bed way too late last night, so I woke up and I'm completely spent. So for the first time this month, I think I'm actually just going to take a day off that it's not scheduled. But normally on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, I stream, and anyone can come in and hang out and talk and interact and just have a conversation. My Discord server is a completely open Discord server. I have some very dedicated moderators. I've gone through the trouble of officially licensing Fiaura the Tank Girl as a LLC, so that I can pay artists and have them on payrolls, and so that I can give moderators who volunteer to be moderators actual like letters of recommendation and letters of reference, so that they are effectively unpaid volunteers until if I ever get to the point I can pay them, I'm totally paying them because they do a lot of work. But yeah, anybody can come, but they are very dedicated to what they do. So anybody can come in. I'm 100%. I have an obscene amount of faith that they will take care of any problems, because between all of them, I'm pretty sure one of them is on, awake, and aware of things, regardless of the time of day. Considering that I have 2 moderators who live in England, and 1 moderator who's Australian, and then about 4 or 5 who are American on that Discord. No, excuse me. 3 that are American and 1 that's Canadian. But between all of them, they have every single time they do, and that it's going to be taken care of. And then on Saturday, if you own a copy of Project Dead Tree's Fallout Equestria game, even if it's just the PDF copy, if you own a copy, then you can make a level 1 character, show up to the game, and play. Doesn't matter. It's an open play game. You can play for an hour, or you can play for the entire 5-hour session Saturday afternoon. It's like 1 p.m. Eastern to. Hi everyone. I give blatant plugs because people are going to ask this information anyway. It's 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that you can come in and play regardless of your experience level or anything. You just have to make a level 1 character, hand it to me on Friday beforehand, and then I will tell you what to change about it so that you can just walk in Saturday and play. Well, it's available on their website. The PDF's like $25 for all 6 books. The actual hard books are like $200 for all of them, but it's available on their website for people to come in and get. I actually still have to post my review of their second book, The Diary of a Mary Sue Character Creation Guide. Oh boy, this is a cringe fest. But it's a cringe fest. It's a cringe fest for very good reasons, and because basically what they did was they wrote a character creation guide for their game, written from the perspective of an incredibly terrible OC that is a black alicorn who's good at being a pirate alicorn. His name is Donut Steel. So that's why I'm saying it's a cringe fest, is because, yes, it's a very good character creation guide, but oh my god, actually reading it, I think I killed brain cells, because I'm reading what is the equivalent of someone's terrible, terrible black alicorn fan fiction that shouldn't exist writing and telling me how to make better characters. So I need to post that. I haven't posted that video yet. It's 2 months behind because of conventions and other work. I need to get that video together and posted this week. The other thing, when I'm writing the fan fiction, it's basically also a hangout. So usually Thursday at 11:30 p.m. EST and Saturday at 11:30 p.m. EST. It's not tonight. Sorry. Then we're recording this on Thursday. Can you tell? It's not tonight because I am spent. Last night we went way over with how long we were playing the. Because we were playing with the devs and we went like an hour and some change over, and then I stayed and hung out, and I should have gone to bed. So I woke up at 3 in the afternoon and went, huh, yeah, I slept through that alarm, didn't I? Yeah. But yeah. So normally the midnight writing streams are also come hang out, talk, ask questions, have conversations. I've helped people through their relationship problems live on stream while I'm trying to write a fan fiction story. I've I talked to we talked a person out of suicide on live stream. But also we've like hung out and said probably what are some of the worst, most horrific jokes you've ever heard. But because of our sick, twisted sense of humor, we all laughed. Anyway, so if you just want to hang out Tuesday, Thursday, Friday afternoon, or Thursday and Saturday at midnight, straight up hangout streams. They're not tabletop RPG streams. You can just come in, hang out. Anybody can come in so long as you're not a dick. If you're a dick, I'll just kick you. I'll just ban you from the server with a giant ban hammer and be done with it. But anybody can come hang out. Anybody can come talk. And then on Tuesday night, this just started up last week, and we've continued it this week, so it's going to be a thing from now on. On Tuesday night, I have what's called the soapbox. Basically, I come into Discord and just kind of sit around and hang out, and then I have the recorder ready to go. And as soon as we hit an interesting conversation topic, I start recording. So this past Tuesday was does the Doomslayer from 2016's Doom have a morality that we can see? No. You have to. So, first off, part of posting stuff on YouTube, you have to have the permission of the person whom, at the time of posting, they can't ask you to take it down once it's posted, but you have to have the permission of the people in the recording to post it. If you don't have their permission, they can take it down. The second reason is I generally just, it's a kind of a courtesy thing to tell people you're doing it so they have the chance to bow out and not participate. So there's a couple of channels that we have. One is a not safe for work channel referred to as Slanesh's Stash, and the other is a channel called Orc Talk Unmoderated. Basically, those two Discord server channels, we don't look in them at all. The moderators and myself pretend that they're not there. You can go in there and talk and say whatever. Just understand that it also comes with the clarification that if you feel like you're being personally attacked, we expect you to be an adult and walk away. We're not going to step in and do anything about it in that channel. What's going to happen, though, is in about a week, one of the moderators is going to come along and hit !purge, enter. And the whole channel is just going to be purged of everything everyone's done for the last week. It's a robot. It's one of the bots I have that's set up as a subroutine to purge a channel. But yeah, I have a channel that's basically the moderators aren't going to look in here. We're not going to solve your problems. If somebody's doing something that you feel is wrong, just walk away. Like, you have that right. Be an adult. Walk away. Don't sit there and be stupid. So we have that channel. So when you say someone can walk in and be an asshole, well, yeah, there's one channel where you can get away with it, and I'm not going to say anything. No one's going to say or do anything about it. But just be aware there are limitations, and if you exceed those limitations, we're just going to kick you from the server. And we're not going to necessarily, if it's because of that channel, we're not necessarily going to give you a warning. It's just going to kind of happen. You haven't asked for, we went over this earlier, you haven't asked for any tags, so we don't give you tags just because we want to give them to you. You have to kind of ask for them. So you haven't given us any tags, so we didn't bother to put anything down. That's your call. Do with it as you see fit. Hi, everybody. I'm Fiaura. If it hasn't been obvious enough, please come watch my content and make me feel like I haven't wasted my entire life. Or come please tell me I've wasted my entire life so I can move on. I am 220% utter trash, but you know what? I make good trash.